We're here in Washington, D.C. for the National Leadership Assembly for Israel, assembly that was convened in 3 days due to the situation in Israel and the growing concern of the leaders of the Jewish community all throughout the United States. We had members of Congress and Senate and the White House talk in front of the Jewish community to give them the unwavering support of the United States to Israel.
At times like this, people try to isolate Israel, but we're here today to stand with Israel. I think America must send this clear, public, and united message. Israel is our friend, and Israel's enemies are our enemies. And as long as I'm Speaker of the House, I give you my word, this will be our cause. Thank you very much.
The reality is that this is a war of aggression by Hamas. We are holding a hearing this week. We're holding a hearing in order to show that Hamas asks their citizens to be human shields. And Sami Abu Zari, who makes that request that they go up on the rooftops, that they be human shields, he himself and other Hamas leaders hide in these tunnels. The great irony of this is that those who are putting their own civilians at risk, asking them to be human shields, are themselves hiding in those tunnels while they carry out the order to continue to launch these rockets and missiles.
Israel does not want missiles coming down on its people. We would not tolerate that. Israel will not tolerate that. And yes, I am proud that the United States, in partnership with Israel, with Iron Dome, has saved many, many lives. Over 400 missiles now have been brought down thanks to the partnership between Israel and the United States. You helped bring that about. Today, we stand in solidarity with the people of Israel. I am proud to be here today.
We would never allow in this country 2/3 of our population to go to a bomb shelter. We would never allow tunnels to come into America without being destroyed. And we would never allow Hamas to have any military existence to be able to send rockets to us again.
No people should be forced to live under these conditions, and Israel has every right. You've heard it over and over again from Republican and Democratic leaders. Every right to defend itself and to end Hamas's reign of terror.
That you all came on short notice reflects the deep sense of commitment you have, the understanding about what this is really all about, that this is not just Israel's battle, it's our battle for survival. This is an attack on the Israeli people, but on all the Jewish people around the world. They make it clear. It is our existence that is the enemy. They put up thin veils. They say, oh, it's only about the Zionists, it's only about the Israelis, it's about occupation, it's about, oh, it is not. It's not about 67, it's about 47. It's not about occupation, it's about Israel's right to exist. And when you read the words of the leaders of Hamas, or of ISIS, or of Iran, take it seriously. Dictators tell the truth. Leaders of democracy sometimes lie. Dictators tell the truth. They tell you what they're going to do. We have to listen to them. Hitler told us what he was going to do. The world didn't want to listen. Stalin told us what he was going to do. We didn't listen. The leaders of Hamas tell us what they want to do. When Khamenei says he wants to wipe Israel off the map, he means it. And we have to make sure he never has the means to do it.
I think it's essential that we as a community show the unity, show the strength, show sort of the wall-to-wall support for Israel in this moment of her travail, of her challenge. And when we decided to plan it, which was just a few days ago, it was clear to me that this was something that had to be done and had to be done quickly.
And what is your feeling of how Washington is treating the whole situation? I mean, are they unanimously in favor of supporting Israel, or do we hear different voices?
We hear generally supportive voices, and I think that's a good sign. The administration has been supportive from the beginning of Israel's right to defend herself. As in all situations, there's questions and concerns that we are here to hopefully respond to by saying that this is America. This is the American Jewish community, and there'll be people from around America and other parts of the country. There'll be Christians, there'll be labor leaders, there'll be African Americans who are also here to say that this is our cause, that Israel's right in this horrible time of Hamas raining rockets, to stand up as a community and say, no, this is not who we are. This is not who we are as Jews. This is not who we are as Americans.
And when you see the media coverage of what's going on now, if you see this unanimous support in Washington, it seems the media not so much in favor of Israel these days.
It is troubling. It is really troubling. I don't know how to answer it except, the number of times that we've been asked and tried to respond. Responding to media isn't always easy. I mean, you are the media, so you're sort of in a seat where you make decisions, and you can only respond so much. And even if you get you have a point, you don't get the kind of retraction that would actually make that work, because once something's said, it goes on forever. So it's important to keep responding. And I know your TV channel goes all over the place. I'm hopeful that people in various communities, Jewish and non-Jewish, are willing to stand up to the media when they, simply try to underline and emphasize the wreckage in Gaza. That it's not the cause of the Israelis. It's not because of the Israelis. It's really because of the way Hamas treats its own people, and it's really tragic.
But is there a way to influence them to go and talk to the people, the decision makers, the editors, the producers, and try to sway them over?
It's something that, I remember in different times in my life. I've been the chair of a Jewish Community Relations Council in Dallas, Texas. And yeah, we spend a lot of time with the media. And you're going to have people here from dozens and dozens and dozens of American communities. And hopefully they will go back and they will talk to their media representatives, and they'll say to Channel X or Channel Y or this newspaper or that one, when you report this, look at the facts, look at who's really at fault, and try to get it right. Because when they don't get it right, it's pretty harmful. However, the one good thing about our country is if you look at even recent polls, it's overwhelmingly supportive of Israel. Americans tend to get it in general, even with the media, often not.
Oh, I think it's extremely important that we're united. We understand there is no moral equivalent between Hamas and Israel. Israel is trying to protect innocent life. Hamas is putting an innocent right at risk. So we are here to say that Hamas needs to stop not only its missiles, but also its terrorism through the use of these tunnels, and that what we really want is peace between the Israelis and Palestinians, and Hamas needs to stop its terrorist actions.
And there's another threat that is almost here. We see what's happening to the Jewish people in Europe with all the anti-Semitism. How are we going to protect that this is not going to overspill into here? With the media and everything, everybody sees everything.
Well, before the present crisis, there was a significant rise in anti-Semitism. And we saw that for the first time since World War II, that there were some governments encouraging anti-Semitism. That is extremely concerning. Now, with these events, it's used as a justification to flame the anti-Semitic fires. This is extremely dangerous, and we need international leadership to condemn any form of anti-Semitism. You can't justify anti-Semitism based upon international events.
And we see that the Washington as a whole is unanimously behind Israel, behind the Jewish community. However, it seems the media has not really got the memo.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's unfortunate that the media tries to say, well, on this side and then that side tries to equate both sides with fault when one side is clearly at blame here. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and I wish the media would understand that. Israel tries to warn innocent populations. Hamas puts innocent populations in their direct targets. I think that needs to be stressed internationally, and I'm disappointed that the press hasn't been more objective on that.
For you personally, why was it important to be here part of this event?
I think it's important. First of all, I've been to Israel many a times, most recently with my grandchildren. I just can't imagine what you're going through with these air raid sirens and what's happening. It's important that Israelis know that we stand united with Israel's not only right, but obligation to protect its citizens.
During this conflict, the media has been particularly bad, particularly unbalanced in its views of objective situations and its reporting on them. Some of it, even from leading media outlets, has been particularly hard to grasp what they're thinking. For example, the Tuesday that Egypt first proposed the ceasefire that Israel accepted, if you recall, the New York Times reporting led with Israel breaks ceasefire, when in fact Israel had accepted the ceasefire, held it for 7 hours while being shot upon with missiles, and then finally gave it up. But that wasn't the nature of the reporting. So it's been very critical for rabbis to get the message out there using Twitter, Facebook, other media. The Rabbinical Assembly immediately sent, that's the International Association of Conservative Rabbis, 40 of our members on the ground in a solidarity mission. We were very pleased that we were able to bring the first of the stream missions to Israel. And then we were very diligent in working with local media outlets, the Chicago Tribune, the New Haven Register, the New Jersey Star Ledger, to be able to kind of enter the media market with people's local hometown papers and deliver a more clear picture of what's happening on the ground.
So what you're basically saying, that combating the situation, social media is the way to go.
Well, social media and whatever means people through their local leadership have. So for rabbis, they are recognized authorities and leaders in the community in each of their towns and cities. And so our conservative rabbis have really been very effective, not only through social media, but actually through reaching out to their clergy groups, to their local representatives, to elected officials, to thought leaders in their areas. Social media is one critical one, but everybody has to think about where is the place that I have influence and social capital. Could be at the water cooler. And we all, this is a task for the entire Jewish community worldwide, because this is a very critical situation that Israel is facing.
This is a very, very important event because you brought together all the press, all the various Jewish leaders, and we're about to say what's really happening and the future, what can happen. The question of these ceasefires only work if it's a real ceasefire, not what we've seen in the past.
How alarming is it to you and the Congress what's happening in Europe, and the could overspill here very easily?
What I'll be talking about today is what's happening in Europe. What's happening in the two types of anti-Semitism. One, which is the Muslim anti-Semitism, which is only a PR event, and the others in places like Hungary and in Greece and in Ukraine and other places. This is real old-fashioned anti-Semitism that has nothing to do with Gaza. As a matter of fact, none of this has to do with Gaza. It's all a PR effort on behalf of the Muslims to put pressure on the world so that the Hamas can survive.
Now, one of your many hats is being involved in the media. When you see the media coverage of this whole event, what do you say about it, and how can we combat it?
The question is, why are the media coverage the way it is? Because the fact that the Hamas, people forget they're a terrorist organization. They're playing the underdog, and the world is always with the underdog. And the pictures of people being killed, we don't know how true they are. We do know is that that's the only thing the world sees. They don't see the rockets coming into Israel. I was there about 10 days ago, and I saw the rockets come in. It's a whole different world. And unfortunately, the fact that there is the Iron Dome, people don't realize the danger of what was going on.
What do you think Israel needs to do in their PR war to change this?
Israel has to have PR, period.
This is very vital. It's the first time in many years that we've had a national leadership assembly of this kind, where people have come from LA to Miami to Boston to express their concern and their solidarity with Israel, to the support for the U.S.-Israel special relationship, and the need for people of Israel to be able to enjoy safety and security.
How afraid are you that what's happening right now in Europe will overspill over here, because they've made this whole Gaza operation into a huge anti-Semitic war against the Jews and Israel?
Well, it's of great concern what's happening in Europe, but it's also happening in some places in the United States. And we believe that it's up to people of every religion and of every faith to speak out against such manifestations of bigotry and racism. We may be the targets, but it's not our responsibility. And I think that the law enforcement officials in Europe especially have to act decisively against this. Just as in America, we have to be very vigilant. This is a cancer allowed to grow, becomes more and more vicious, that the words of violence lead to acts of violence.
And it seems like the media is just adding oil to the fire, so to say, with being anti-Israel.
The media has, in this case, been irresponsible for the large part, distorting the realities on the ground. And I think when this is all over, there better be some sort of a coming to account where they realize that the American people see through this. The overwhelming support Israel enjoys despite these terrible reports and distortions indicates that the press has got a big responsibility to be able to restore its reputation and the confidence of the people.
Well, I think it's important for us to show solidarity, not only with the Jewish community, but solidarity with all those who are the victims of terrorist activities. And that is to say, all of us throughout the world have been victims of those who would try to impose their will by terror, those who would not give the right of others to live in peace. I think that solidarity is critically important. I think it's also very important for members of Congress to stand and say, this conflict ought not to be ended in a way that allows terror to continue. It needs to be resolved. We need to demilitarize the Gaza Strip. And we need to then assist the people of Gaza, not the terrorists of Gaza, but the people of Gaza in seeking a better life. Israel wants that to be the case, and we want it to be the case. But we cannot let it end in a stalemate. We cannot let it end with terror still capable.
What was happening was the Jewish community was coming together in New York and Chicago and LA, and there was no manifestation of the organized Jewish community showing not only Israel, but more important, Washington, how united we are in our support. And it provided an opportunity for congressmen, for senators, and Ambassador Susan Rice to say what she said. I thought it was extraordinary. I think it was a magnificent statement. So, yeah, it's very important for Israel. It's important for America. It's also important for us. You know what? Not everything is exactly what it seems or what you hear. Israel wants a ceasefire too, both their conditions. At the end of the day, it's only the United States that will be able, together with Israel, to move. There's nobody else. Egypt alone can't do it. Europe won't do it. So at the end of the day, there are some differences. There may be some disappointments, but it's the only, well, we got Canada, we got Australia, but it's the only ally really that when push comes to shove, they're the only ones there.
Well, I'm very happy that Congressman Ted Deutsch and I have a bipartisan bill that we hope to pass this week in the House, and it condemns the use of civilian shields by Hamas. I think it will send a very strong message, and it will send the people a message saying, look, we are cognizant of the fact that while Israel is using missiles to protect her citizens, Hamas is using people to protect their missiles. That's quite a different framework. It's a different way of thinking. Hamas is using civilians as human shields. We condemn this use, and I think that's an important statement to make.
I think it's very important that the American Jewish community and American citizens understand the unity that exists in the Jewish community and the type of support that exists for Israel during this very critical time.
How do you convince the people who are talking against the media who is so biased? Is there a way to sway them over?
I don't know if there's a way to sway them over, but I think we have a real important obligation to speak out whenever we can, on television, through social media, in the press, to our neighbors, to get the truth out about what is going on right now in Israel, in Gaza, and the way in which Israel is conducting itself as the most moral army on the face of the earth.
And, you know, as we see what's happening overseas in Europe, you know, how alarming is it that something like that could burst here. I mean, it's like brush fire.
I think it's extremely alarming. In fact, I just read online that ISIS is flying its flags at The Hague, and I think Europeans need to wake up to the reality of what's truly happening in the world. And they've been much too complacent about these issues, and that coupled with the anti-Semitism, which seems to be gripping Europe, is extremely alarming.
But are we safe here so far?
In the United States, I think we're safe. We have a strong democracy, credible ties between the United States and Israel, notwithstanding this past week. But I do think we are safe, yes.
Do you think that America understands? Because we hear all those voices that Obama is trying to push Netanyahu for a ceasefire. And we all know that a ceasefire now is going to be the worst thing that Israel can do.
Well, I agree. I don't believe that there should be a ceasefire. I think that we need to finish the job that we started. It's very clear, according to the Hamas charter, they're not interested in settlements. They're not interested only in lifting a blockade. They're interested in destroying the state of Israel and killing Jews. One only has to read their charter. Notwithstanding what President Obama and his particular position, I do believe at heart the administration is supportive of Israel, although clearly now Israel and the administration is having a disagreement, one that is very alarming for the American Jewish community.
Well, I'm here on my way to Israel tonight. The response within the Jewish community of Israel has been enormously powerful. In fact, we've raised well over $2 million without a campaign for this. So their support is strong. The media coverage in Los Angeles is no different than the media coverage in New York or in any other place. Unfortunately, at times, Israel is losing the PR war and losing the narrative. But that does not mean that the Jewish community in Los Angeles isn't strong and solid behind Israel.
As a former media person, how do you think one can sway them over to see?
You know what, the truth is it's almost impossible when on the one side you have next to no civilian casualties because you're protecting your people, and on the other side, because you're using your people, you have children and women and large numbers of that. So I think it's almost impossible to totally change the narrative. The issue becomes context. And I think Israel is way behind the context war, right? The context is what's happening in Gaza is a result of what Hamas is doing. And Hamas is the motivator behind everything that's going on in terms of what's negatively happening in Gaza. The problem, as you know, in the media is when you get very behind on a story, it's almost impossible to catch up. Because as you try to catch up, you look like you're desperate and you're trying to catch up. On the Israeli side, they're very, very consistent on the message. A big problem is happening here in the United States. A big problem is what's happening with our Secretary of State in the United States and members of this administration who are trying to be balanced in what they say, and that balance is imbalanced towards Israel.
Well, there is a great threat to the Jewish people in Europe these days. That's absolutely so. There are many Jewish communities that are feeling quite threatened. It comes from ultra-right-wing parties that are gaining strength in such places as Hungary and Greece and in France. And we've been watching anti-Israel demonstrations turn anti-Jewish, which is really kind of like the same thing, if you ask me, because those who are really strictly anti-Israel, they're really anti the Jewish people. And I think that it's up to the countries where the Jews are citizens for them to protect those citizens. And it is not allowable that things that happen in the Middle East be used as a cover for anti-Semitism.
And you correctly said we are watching. You know, we don't actually have teeth to do something about it. We're relying on the governments and the police in those countries to do something. As we see, they're actually not. So what can we do? Or is there nothing to do but just watch what's happening? Because it's very scary.
No, I don't think we just watch. I mean, it is our job to intervene with those governments, to be very actively vocal and tell them, demand of them that it is their responsibility to protect their citizens. Jews have the right to live safely anywhere in the world, just like any other citizen of any other country. And every country is obligated to protect all its citizens, including the Jewish communities therein. So what we are doing at the World Jewish Congress, and our president has been flying around to many countries, is making sure that those governments hear us loudly and clearly. We were in Hungary recently. We were in Greece recently. We have been traveling to other countries in the FSU, and we've been in France, and we have been deploring the situation, and we have been speaking to the highest levels of government, including presidents and prime ministers, to make sure that the governments will indeed protect their Jewish communities and see to their safety.
From the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., I'm Ron Jacobsohn for Shalom TV, reporting from the National Leadership Assembly for Israel.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.